Let's start.
Welcome to our PLC today on Accelerated Reader in the Elementary Classroom. Before we begin, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. This is my 5th year teaching kindergarten at Bengate Elementary in Henderson, Kentucky. Accelerated Reader has always been something I have done at the kindergarten level. I've implemented it differently in different years. Sometimes it's left up to us how we implement it. Sometimes it's mandatory. Over the past couple of years, it's become a district-wide expectation. I wanted to share with you the research that I have conducted for Edol 647, my last class before I achieved my master's degree. The purpose of this study is to prove that the excess of accelerated reader in elementary schools by comparing K-Prep test scores from schools that consistently use the program to K-Prep test scores from schools that do not consistently use the program. The data collection consisted of K-Prep scores of all 8 elementary schools in Henderson, Kentucky. 3 years of test scores were looked at in this study. I looked at the 2012-2013 school year, the 2013-14 school year, and the 14-15 school year. The results of this study are beneficial to accelerated reader researchers, educators, and other stakeholders within education. Schools that currently use the program will want to take note of the results within this study. Schools that are unfamiliar with the program will find this research to be very informative and helpful. I do hope that all of my hard work does help someone somewhere. The goal for the institution of education in the United States is quite clear. I think we can all agree upon that. Every student shall be college or career ready upon the completion of high school. With the fast-paced global economy that our high school graduates must compete with, educators must provide new and rigorous instruction throughout the duration of the K-12 education. And I think that's the big question. Does Accelerated Reader provide that? Is Accelerated Reader something that we should move forward with, or is Accelerated Reader a thing of the past? Instruction must meet the new Common Core standards as well as the high demands and expectation of modernized education. Early literacy skills and the implementation of technology are key factors in creating the foundation for student success. One program that has been implemented in many Kentucky school districts is Accelerated Reader. The research questions that I chose to focus on for my action research plan, and I could have went about this several ways, but I chose 2 questions. Will the students' K-Prep test scores be higher if Accelerated Reader is implemented consistently? And are there differences in K-Prep scores in rural schools versus urban schools? This is a big question for where I live and teach, because we have very different rural schools and urban schools. So when we make a decision district-wide, we want to make sure that it's going to be successful for all students in all of the elementary schools. When I completed my annotated bibliography, I had over 15 sources. So for this presentation today, obviously I don't want to keep you all here all night, I narrowed my literature review to, I believe, 3 of those sources. I tried to pick the best 3, 3 that really helped with what I'm trying to communicate to you all today. This particular journal article is from Entry into Formal Education Reading Improvement, and the findings of this study suggest that there are significant differences in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grades in regards to AR points earned, quizzes taken, and quizzes passed. Additionally, relationships were found between the age of the student and the variables of quizzes passed and quizzes taken. Also, females scored significantly higher than males. The authors state that while there is conflicting research on age of entry into formal education, cognitive development clearly plays a role in the success of reading programs like Accelerated Reader. What does that mean for my research? I think that sometimes we are asking students to cognitively do things that they're not developmentally ready for. I'm a kindergarten teacher, so I feel like I can speak openly about that. I have been on the fence with accelerated reader in the past. I have felt like sometimes it's too above my students' heads. We're asking them to comprehend too much that they cannot comprehend. But as I've grown as an educator, I have realized that kindergarten students can comprehend books. Are they going to read them? Probably not in the beginning. Can I read them to them? Can their parents read them to them? Can peer mentors read them to them? Absolutely. Should they be able to work their way up into taking AR tests and acing those tests? I think the answer to that is yes. This research really didn't go into that as much as I wanted it to, but it did speak about how cognitive development does play a role in the success of reading programs like Accelerated Reader. So your children do need to be at least a kindergarten level, reading level. I think another thing that this points out is that females scored significantly higher than males. That is not anything that I have seen in my classroom in the past. If I were to take a poll of thousands of kids, as they did, would I see something like that? Maybe. And is that something that our district would need to dive into and see? Is this a program that is more successful for females than males? Yes, maybe that should be looked more into. However, in my research, I did not see that. I do not see that in my class, have not seen that in my past classes. The next article that I wanted to share with you was from Reading Habits of Middle School Students Exposed to Accelerated Reader in Elementary Grades. This study questioned if students that were exposed to AR actually read more than those that were not exposed. This study took over 1,500 middle school students from 3 different school districts to determine if AR was a success. The study revealed that students who are not exposed to AR actually read more than those who are enrolled and actively using the program. This study leaves the research open to find the best ways to motivate the young reader to read. So this particular study was not for AR. This particular study showed that students who are not exposed to AR actually read more than those who were enrolled and actively using the program. My problem with this study is, were these schools using it correctly? Were they implementing it to motivate the students to read? Or was it something that was not being used with fidelity? Was it something that was not being used as simply a curriculum supplement? I don't think that Accelerated Reader is meant to be your core reading instruction. I have heard of schools that use it as their core reading instruction, and so if that's the case, then you may see students left frustrated and unmotivated. That's not the case in our district. AR is simply a supplement in a way to differentiate. The last article that I wanted to discuss with you is the Accelerated Reader Program, Reading Achievement and Attitudes of Students with Learning Disabilities. This came from someone's dissertation and thesis research. It was published in a journal. The conclusion of this study stated that the AR program not only improved reading comprehension, but also the attitudes toward reading in students with learning disabilities. The students in the AR group increased reading levels from a mean score of 2.81 to 3.50 on the STAR test. Additionally, these students improved their attitudes toward reading by 13% on the Estes Reading Attitude Scale. The findings of the students in the groups that did not use the Accelerated Reader program found that their reading levels actually decreased from a 4.75 to a 4.25 on the STAR test. According to the Estes instrument, their attitudes towards reading only increased by 2.6%. So this particular article went with where my research ended up going, that AR actually does improve reading comprehension, which is important. Of course, we wouldn't want a supplemental reading comprehension program that didn't improve reading comprehension, but it also improves their attitudes towards reading, which is so important. I, as a kindergarten teacher and an early education educator, it's easy to motivate my kids. I've noticed with my own personal children, and when I speak with my colleagues, it's not as easy to motivate those 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade students. We have to teach them young to love reading. We have to find what they want to read. We have to get them going on that. I think that's something that we lose sight of with all of our test scores and our gathering of data, and we're in such a data-driven state right now. I think it's very important that we remember it's the students' attitudes. What? Okay. Okay, my cameraman had to tell me something. Okay.